Welcome everybody to episode 2 of the new user webisode series. Welcome back. Hopefully you watched episode 1. If you didn't, stop right here, go to episode 1, and then come back to episode 2. In episode 1, we covered how to get your team on board and where to start, and talked a little bit about what resources we had and how to template things. And now we're going to kind of talk about Buildertrend's essential features, which is a really important topic. I'm Wojtowicz once again. I'm on the education team here at Buildertrend, and joining me is my friend and colleague Taylor Henne, also on the education team. We work together very closely.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me, Taylor.
Happy to be here, Zach.
She was here with us in episode 1 as well. And when we talk about Buildertrend essential features, it is a lot of information as always. We have a limited amount of time today, so we want to make sure we can kind of cover some things that a lot of users, when they're getting started, because you're new, miss and could really help down the line. So let's get into how to make sure that your account is sound. So setup essentials, and when we think about essentials and things that are going to make it so that your program is not missing anything, that everything's working the way it should, a lot of times we start with the infrastructure of the text boxes and how your program is going to look and how everything's going to kind of flow together. So in program here, let's just jump into Buildertrend and get started and talk about setup. Only users who have the proper permissions are going to be able to see this setup gear in the top right hand corner, or I should say they'll see the gear, but they might not have the setup option. And what that means is they can't go in and change default settings about your account. That's probably a good thing. We don't want the field crew necessarily to go in and start changing things. And so if you are a full admin, you'll have to, or if you're not a full admin, excuse me, you'll have to go in and have someone who is give you permission to see this information. But once you get here, you can see that there's a lot of things that you can go in and tweak. And I remember when I was learning the program, being a little bit overwhelmed of like, what is happening? What is this screen really telling me? And all it is saying is that Buildertrend has a lot of features to it. It's got a database for who you're talking to. It's got schedules, obviously. It's got change orders. It's got all those things that allow you to manage your project. What can we change about it? And what can we do to make it so that it always has the same things again and again? And so when we look at where to start and what things to tweak and get in place, we always like to point out the default text of certain things. So let's talk about your estimate, for example. So if I scroll down to the financial part and click estimate, if I have a standard contract that I'm using with all my projects, this is a great place to put it. So you can see down here under default introductory text, I have my contractor agreement with the home ownership and the scope of what's happening. It's got my article. And then I also have what specific default items I'd want to display to my customer. Maybe I want to show them my cost code. I want to show them my description. I want to show them the quantity and the grouping price. And then I get into the default closing text where I can see what articles and all the details that go in. How often are you paying me? What are milestones? What are the obligations if we have a change order? What are the terms and conditions for closing? All the details can be put in there, warranty services. And then I can also put in even my additional disclaimer, like when I send it to the customer or when they approve it online via email, what is the acknowledgement that they're making? So lots of really great ways for you to make it so that rather than have to start from scratch every time, and that's similar to what we talked about in episode 1, templating. This is a form of templating. So that anytime you create a new estimate, this is its starting point. And there are a lot of other places that can be used to kind of bring this up to the next level. Let's talk, for example, about bid packages, Taylor.
Yeah.
You know, what are common things that we see people template on bids? What would we want to include in our standard bid information?
Well, I mean, definitely, you know, like your articles to your terms and conditions that you have with your subcontractors that you want to enforce on job sites or even as, you know, a particular job site. So, yeah, anything that is a standard context for your subcontractors, you would want to definitely put in that overall setup.
Yeah, so back in program, when I'm, in this setup area, and this is why it's so easy to get lost, you kind of have to do this one at a time. So let's say you're learning about the estimate. Start there. Get those settings all set up. And then the next piece is I'm looking at tweaking my bids. So I'm going to click into the bids tab on this page here, again, just up in the setup wheel, and we'll see the default bid request notification text. This is kind of important. And if you're trying to get your subs on board, if they're just getting blank emails, of, hey, we asked you to bid, it doesn't really help them. Think of it as a coaching moment. I can send them this bid request and they're able to kind of follow the steps. Click this link, use this. If you have a question, use the comments, give them some direction, but it also helps them see kind of the process and give you a little bit more legitimacy when they are sending out information from the bid. The other piece that I'd like to point out though is, what about your clients, the people that you might use Buildertrend with? Buildertrend lets clients log in to the system, and that's where we can go up to job settings and we can change the default text for the owner invitation email. And this is a really nice way that when you go out to invite your clients to use Buildertrend, that the message they're receiving was written by you. Now, Buildertrend does provide a default text field here, but we'd recommend going through and trying making it a little bit more personal. Some people will actually put a video of their team to talk about who they're going to be working with. Sometimes they'll actually put some specific documents that they use through the handout. So your creativity, again, is the only thing that's limiting you, but just knowing where to go and where to change these things is huge. And then the last place I'll point out that I think not enough people do is think of their PO system. If you're using the financial features in Buildertrend, you can click bills, POs, and budget. And Buildertrend's PO system in a lot of ways mimics a sub-trade agreement, a form of contract for you to be able to get your subs kind of under the trade agreement, and then you can outline exactly what you're looking for them to follow. Do they have to clean up the job site? What are the payment terms that come along with this PO? Whatever it is that you do to have your subs do the work, your PO basically can deliver this, and they can even approve it right through the Buildertrend account. And even more beautifully is they don't have to be active. They get an email, they can approve it right there, and they're signed, and now you have a document with their signature that can hold them to those expectations in a much cleaner and easier way than how most people that I've experienced use POs. Taylor, on these key settings, am I missing anything? Is there another piece of area that you think that people could look at in order to tweak their experience or add in?
You do great as always, but yeah, definitely those preset terms, again, another way for you guys to just save time and also communicate as a company what are those terms and conditions, and how are we communicating with our customers and our subcontractors? Are we being clear? Buildertrend can help you do that with these pre-settings. And remember, these are just defaults. So if you do start an estimate on a job and you need to tweak something, perfect, tweak it on that job. But at least have something to start with. So any standard verbiage that you have for your homeowners, your subcontractors, put it in there, and then you can always tweak it once you get it in the job if need be.
Yeah, and Taylor, along with the default language, there's also default settings that we like to tweak. And we can only give you a few examples here, but one of the ones that I want to point out kind of ties to what we discussed in episode 1, which is the schedule. And with the schedule, maybe you are sharing that with your customer, or the way that you like to use the schedule is you want things to be grouped together in what are called phases. Phases are kind of like buckets for you to place individual schedule items into to condense the information that is being displayed on the schedule. But Buildertrend requires that you set up these phases ahead of time. So I clicked in the program, in that settings area, the schedule tool right here, and then down at the bottom, you'll see phases. Now my account here has these already set up, and you can see pre-construction, excavation, foundation, all these things that are gonna have individual schedule items, and this is the parent, this is the hierarchy that goes with it. And so you can click add phase, create a new one, change the color, and then once you're on the schedule, you're able to then place them into those appropriate areas. This is a popular feature, especially with clients, your homeowners that you're doing work for, because let's say you want to show them the schedule, but they don't need to know every little detail about the interior finishes and the millwork and when the things are going to be delivered. You just want them to see finishes or final trades or whatever it is that you call that phase. You have to have this infrastructure set up for them to be able to do that. Similarly, if you are beginning that experience of kind of going through and getting your homeowners on board, daily logs are a great way to kind of start that process. Daily logs are journal entries or site entries about what's happening on the project. And if you use it correctly, it can even be a timeline of everything that's going on. Now, you don't need to create a daily log every day. I know the name is daily log, but we've had builders who set the cadence. They'll do 3 days, once a week. Ultimately, it's your expectations of your people and what you're telling your customers. We'd recommend following through on that. But you can make their jobs a little easier by handling kind of preset language on daily logs. What happened today and were there any issues? And even more so, if you're like, I want my clients to see every single one, you can set the default setting to where they can see every single aspect, or every single daily log, I should say, with just a click of a button. And then you will have any new daily log with that settings established. And we are going to talk about another really important thing a little bit later called custom fields. So stay tuned for that. Finally, I always recommend an exercise early on in your Buildertrend experience if you're a new user, talking about cost codes. Call into our helpline, talk to your coach, whoever, someone at Buildertrend can give you advice on the best way to structure a cost code system in Buildertrend. And you likely are using something that mimics our cost code system, but there's some formatting that we like to kind of go through and ask you questions and really just kind of give you an opportunity to really think about, what do I need my cost code list to be? And so I clicked into this list here and you can see nice and orderly, broken into categories with subgroups or sub items that I can use on my estimate. It is so important from a new user standpoint to spend some time getting a good cost code list ready to go, because without it, you really don't have a ton of direction from the financial standpoint. Taylor, is there any other setup essentials and preset things that you might recommend that I missed here today?
Well, we don't have enough time.
Right, with essence of time.
Yes, no, you did a great job just allowing them to just kind of see how to get started, and the setup features and something that is important to obviously get set up before you get started. So yeah, definitely to reiterate on the cost code side, please come talk to us. Let us set you up for success, because that is one of the most powerful features to start with.
Yeah, and to Taylor's point, we have looked at hundreds, if not thousands, of cost code lists, and we keep some of them on hand so that if you need some advice on how to get started with cost codes and what they're for, we can give you a list that maybe not will be perfect for you, but it's a starting point. And that's what it's all about, moving up your start time. You can look at the list, say, I don't need that, I am missing this, or you can just adopt one for yourself. And we've seen a lot of builders who come to us who don't use cost codes. Their budgets are just money in, money out, broad budgets. We can kind of start giving you some direction and giving you hopefully better projects as a result that are tighter on budget. So shifting gears here really quickly, there's this other piece about Buildertrend, which is controlling the amount of information that you're reviewing within the program. And it's an essential, because without the ability to really dictate the flow of information and what it looks like, you're kind of lost. I've talked to people for a long time at Buildertrend who are like, I just wish I could create the columns the way I want, or I just wish that I could hide certain information.
Yeah.
You can.
Right.
It's just that for now, it's just about knowing where to look. And when you log in, it's just like, whoa, look at all this information. So while in program, let's talk really quickly about grid settings and filters, and just kind of the concepts that go along with grid settings and filters. When I log into the program here, you can see I've got my job. I'm just going to pick a job off the left-hand side, and I'm going to go up to to-dos. And I like to-dos as a starting point because it's a feature that you can start using relatively quickly, and it does a good job kind of showing you how a lot of information in to-dos can add up very quickly. So this one in particular, I'm viewing all of Jordan Coolidge's to-dos. He's got a recurring to-do here that's kind of like going through and showing all this. Maybe I don't want to see all this information. That's where I can click filter your results, and I can change the parameters of what data is appearing below that. So if I go down to assign to-dos and go to created by me instead, right? Boom. Now I'm not seeing all of Jordan Coolidge's to-dos, and I can see I've done a great job. Maybe I want to expand that out and view it across multiple jobs. I don't have to look at projects one job at a time. So if I go into all listed jobs, now I'm looking across multiple projects. All I did was click on the left-hand side, all jobs. That's always an option at the top, and I can see just the to-dos that I've created within my account without seeing all the information of other people's activities. And what's also great, Taylor, about this is the grid settings.
Yes.
Why are grid settings so helpful in Buildertrend?
Well, simple answer, then you only have to see what you want to see and what's most important to you.
Right.
And not only that, but you can customize it to yourself individually, so you could have different grid settings than me. So you can do it what's most important to your job position.
Yeah, so to change grid settings, you'll see this little gear icon. Whenever you see a gear in Buildertrend, it means, ooh, I can change things.
Yeah.
and so if I click the gear, that opens up a sub window here where I can tweak. Maybe I don't really care about tags. I'm not using that. Maybe I'm not interested in comments. I'm not using that. But maybe there's some other things that I want to add back in. So I just click into the box and you can see a drop down pops up. And from there, I can be like, but I do care about the notes. And I do care about reminders that I want to see. And then I'm going to hit apply view and boom. Now the parameters of that columns are going to change. And I can see those new things. Maybe if I want to save that grid so that I don't have to remember to do that every time I log in, I'm going to click back into that gear, okay? And this is the thing that always kind of changes or always kind of confuses people is you have to name it something other than standard. So I'm going to call this Zach's view, and then I can hit up at the top, save as new. And then from there, I've just created this new column. And I can toggle between my different views. Oh, looks like I've already got myself a view. And I can kind of create different reports. And what's cool about these grid settings is you can use it on financial features like POs, bills. You can do it with user settings. You can do it with selections. Pretty much anywhere in the program, this is applicable.
Yeah.
And so I'd highly recommend that you meet with your team and figure out what do we want our grids to look like? What do we want our filters to look like? And get that set up. As you start implementing it, rather than waiting 3 or 4 years and be like, why does it always look this way? And we're like, well, actually you could change it. And you always could. It's just knowing where to look.
Those were my favorite support calls. And I was just like, did you know you could change that? And
The
they were
whoa
like,
moments. Yeah. And they're like, why didn't I know that 3 years ago?
Yeah, life changing.
And the last thing I want to cover today, Taylor, are custom fields.
Yep.
And this is how you can tweak the changes of it. You want to talk to the people a little bit about custom fields?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Buildertrend offers a lot of, different type of filters and fields for you already, but we know that every company is different. You could be a new home, you could be specialty remodel, or you could be all three. But so you have the ability to customize some fields for your own reporting in Buildertrend. And where you're going to do that, Zach, if you'll take him to this setup, we're going to go back into setup.
So I'm logged in here like I was in my account.
Yeah.
We'll go up to the setup gear. Go ahead.
Go into settings. Now, what's cool is custom fields are actually on almost every feature in Buildertrend. So let's say daily logs, for example, right? Daily logs are something where we log what happened on that job that day or want to give information to our homeowners or subs. But we can create fields by just selecting the tab that we want to create the custom fields on. So we'll do daily logs. And then we'll be able to create those custom fields within there at the very bottom of the page. And we can do things like equipment on site. You could create a drop-down list that lists your excavator, your bobcat, your chainsaw, whatever that might be. And then when they're in that daily log recording it, they'll be able to select that field and track that for reporting. And it even ties back to our filtering. You can filter down to those custom fields as well.
Yeah, and this is a thing that when people call in, like, I wish the program did this. That's where custom fields come in.
Yeah.
A lot of times we can get pretty creative and find a solution to what you're looking to do. So when I click add new field, there's a ton of different custom field types, checkboxes, lists of users, lists of subs, dates, currency, numbering systems. We try to make it flexible.
Right.
And I love the example that you're using with the equipment used. You can see in our demo account here, we already have an equipment used technique. And one of our colleagues was a former landscaper, and he always loved this example because he'd need a skid loader and he'd show up on site and he's like, I don't know where it's at. Tagging it in a daily log is a great use of a custom field. So I'm going to go back into project management. I'm going to click daily logs, and I just want to demonstrate kind of the utility of what this does for you. So we talked about grid settings and filters earlier. Well, because I have a custom field for the equipment used, you can see it's in my filter at the top of the screen here. And now I can be like, I want to go look for my bobcat and hit update results. And then any custom field that has that assigned to it, I can see, okay, my last known location was back in January 11th at this job site here for client experience. So seems small, but you can really do a lot with those custom fields. And all it is just a product of having it built in to the bottom here. So organically, it's already part of what you do. It's what you're seeing, and you can even make these custom fields required. And that's kind of like a training wheel thing where your employees are just getting started and they keep forgetting to fill out their custom fields. Make it so they can't close it unless they fill out the custom field. And even just use it as an acknowledgement. Like I've had people be like, did you read this? And they'll have like a checkbox. Hey, I mean, do what you got to do to make it work. So anything else on custom fields here, Taylor?
They're really powerful. Recommend you guys getting in there and customizing that software to you.
Absolutely. Well, that's Buildertrend Essential Features. Thank you for joining for episode 2. We really enjoyed having you. Please join us for episode 3, where we're going to take a look at the mobile app. I'm Wojtowicz.
I'm Taylor Henne.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.